All right, Sammy Warm Hands, thanks so much for sitting down with me and doing this interview over the interwebs. Just so people out there know who I am in your camp, I'm Thomas Hura. I'm from Eugene, Oregon. Right now I'm living in Minnesota, and I do a little bit of rap myself under the name Gradient. That's who I am, just so the people know me. But this is about you. So you've been pursuing music for about 15 years now. There's a line between punk and rap that you're kind of always towing, I'd say. You know, it's more hip hop, but there's definitely a punk influence, a lot of aggressive vocal deliveries. And then with this new record, Bears Repeating, is there a reason for why you kind of toned that down? Did you feel like the subject matter deserved to be treated differently? I know this is a very personal record.
You know, like everything I do comes through that lens of punk rock. You know, like when I grew up, I was always listening to like Epitaph and Fat Wreck bands and that kind of like skate punk, Nitro Records stuff. Also to a lot of George Carlin stand-up, and those two things really like shaped my worldview. Now with this one, I reached out to Esid first and I said, I want to do an album with you. Some stuff that was just really fat, gritty drums, just real like boom bap shit.
We all just want someone to say good morning, have a good flight.
He's like, I don't want to make a record that sounds like 1996. But the ones that I chose were not necessarily what I went in looking for. That's just kind of the way that it went. I was surprised at what caught my ear.
Cool. So you basically put out 4 albums in the last year or so. I mean, starting with Asshole Extraordinaire in early 2013, and then Death of a Salesman with The Illusionists, Break the Bank with Ogar Burl, and then this one just came out in January, Bears Repeating. And so when did you start working on that album? Because it seems like you're just going bang, 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 bang.
I usually have multiple things going on at the same time, so I can have like, if I'm writing but I'm in this mood, then it can go to project A. If I'm writing and I'm in that mood, it can go to project B, you know? That way I'm never like wasting my time or feeling like I'm having to force myself to write for a certain project. This one, I would say, took about a year and a half from the first inception of the song concepts and starting to get the beats to, you know, the release date and the tour.
Cool, let's talk about Crisis of Conscience, which was the first video to come out from the album, and it's a hell of a song. It's basically an indictment of the culture that we have surrounding women and their bodies and what we think of as a beautiful woman, and just attacking gender issues and all sorts of really neat concepts that are talked about in the song. What is your background with Guante, who's a Twin Cities rapper who collaborated with you on the song, and how did that whole process of writing the song, knowing that that song had to be written, come about?
That was probably the first concept that I had for the record, right around the time we did the Bored with Buddha tour with Christoph Crane and Zach HB. I just remembered like feeling really strongly about the issue around that time. Like I would say, there was that line where I said, why can't I compliment my beautiful wife without a self-deprecating reply to ruin the night? That's kind of what it came from, you know, because me, I've never had like high self-esteem about the way that I look, but I just don't really care. I don't measure myself on that, you know, and a lot of people do. I would say that the majority of people in our culture here do. And so when you spend time with people that you care about and you say things to them that are complimentary or whatever, and they go, oh, gross, I don't even have makeup on, or I'm not even dressed. Like right now, I'm wearing long johns. I'm not even sitting here wearing pants talking to you. And one night in Seattle, at the end of the tour, it was the last night of the tour, I was telling Christoph about it, and he's like, look, man, he's like, your whole world is black and white, but that's not how things work. Just tell both sides of the story. And that conversation was like, all right, I fucking got it. I figured it out, you know. And it took a long time. I mean, that was 2012, summer of 2012 at that point. So I wrote a lot of just pages and pages of lyrics, and came up with something that I felt was a cohesive statement. And to answer the thing about Guante, I don't actually know him in person. We've never met face to face. Zach had played me his music on tour. I bought the album when it came out. You Better Weaponize. He really broadened it, and he made it about all of us. Because I was trying to speak on behalf of the women in my life and using their interviews to kind of justify that, you know? And then he kind of just smashed down the walls and was like, everybody here is involved, whether you like to be or not. And it was great. So I don't think anybody could have done it better.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And what you were saying about how you were talking about the way that you contribute to it as well, I think really adds to the song in that it makes the listeners realize the way they're contributing as well. You know, if you were only taking a one-sided approach, then it is kind of like a, oh yeah, fuck what's going on over there. But when you're talking about it from both sides, the listeners realize, you know what, I actually need to shift gears also and change the way that I approach this issue. So I think that was a really cool artistic decision. And so you also have some other really killer features on the record, from like Task One to Fashawn to Landon Wurtzwell to basically everybody on the record killed it. So I'm sure you totally enjoyed working with all of them and could probably speak about it for hours. But which ones kind of stood out to you with the collabs on this record?
You know, Blueprint is really exciting for me. You know, we had him on Death of a Salesman. Having him back on this was really great. I sent him a Manufactured Disbelief. I was driving around filming interviews that day for Crisis of Conscience, and that was at like noon that I talked to him, and I left to do those interviews. And by the time I got home at 7 o'clock, I had an email from him with his parts written and everything. He's like, oh man, I was supposed to work on something else, but I really liked your song.
That sounds a lot like the way that Can't Wait came about from my mixtape. You know, I can understand that perspective as well, because, you know, I just sent that to you, you know, not thinking that you were going to be on it, or not thinking that you'd have time to do it, and you just felt inspired by it and sent it back, like the studio recording of it, like a couple hours later. So I understand that perspective, and I was like giddy when I heard that for the first time. I was like, Sam made this one a cut. So that's cool to see that you get that feeling from artists, you know, on a bigger scale like Blueprint.
Let me say this too. In doing that record with you, when I was in high school and we were playing shows for our friends and at school and whatever, this band Compact 56, all dudes that were considerably older than us, in their 20s, playing the bar scene, they came out to one of our rehearsals because they heard about us, started putting us on shows, and that opened up everything for me. That was in 2001, you know, and so when I have a friend like, you know, my drummer Kellen in DFS, and he's like, man, I really want to start playing some guitar, you know. It's like I gave him my guitar. I was like, you do that, make a record. And we made the Bear Cub record, you know. That stuff is more inspiring to me sometimes than the stuff I'm actually working on, because I know how much that meant to me. Another one that was really cool to me was Joe Beats, who was on Break the Bank on a couple tracks, and I just loved, like, my favorite Sage Francis stuff is the Non-Prophets album. That's them as a duo, and I hadn't heard from him since Break the Bank.
I got that one here too. You should get that one, people at home.
But he had given me this extra song, and I mailed him a copy of Bears Repeating when it came out, and just yesterday or the day before, I got a really nice letter from him, just really patting Esid and Odar on the back and saying, you know, that we all really had a great chemistry going, and he just said some really great things that he didn't have to say, you know, as a dude with his credibilities. You know, he could just be like, yeah, it's dope, and leave it at that. But, you know, it's really cool to me to get those personal interactions with people who are actually invested in your success, and that shit goes a really long way for me.
Awesome. So you just got back pretty recently from the Bears Repeating tour. How did that go, and were there any especially exciting moments from that you want to share?
There have been some tours that we've done where we don't necessarily fit the bill. You know, like that one I talked about with Christoph Crane. Like, I love Christoph Crane and his music, but we were up there doing songs from, like, Death Proof and shit. And it didn't make any sense when, you know, he'd be going up there like, everyone I know is oppressed. And we're up there like, you're not a bad motherfucker, you're bad. You know, like, it just doesn't...
Doing Dick Buffet.
So there'd be nights we do well, nights we do bad. With this tour, it was unique in the way that myself, K.I., Ebb, and Ogar Burl, and I modeled this kind of after when I saw Fashawn and Evidence play together. I wanted everyone to make an appearance during everyone's set. So it really comes out as like, this is the crew, and you're seeing the tour. You're seeing the Bears Repeating tour. So pretty much everyone who came up to us after the set would be like, man, I really liked all of you guys. You guys were all really great. We already had that chemistry, and for the first time, instead of bringing somebody from the Midwest or bringing somebody from Seattle, we brought our Eugene crew out on the road, and it was cool for that reason mostly.
And while you were on that tour, when you were in California, as I understand it, you met up with Task One, who's on Blood in the Water on the record, which is probably my personal favorite song on the album. And you were doing a little video shoot with him, right? How's that video process going?
I can tell you that the filming is complete, and I'm pretty excited about it. Eb1 was on a tour with us, and he's shot videos for me before. We met up at this record store, Dimple, down in Sacramento. I asked Task, I was like, all right, man, so what's good in the neighborhood? Where can we, film some shit on the fly? He's like, let's just do it here. It was like on the block where Tower Records originated. And so you kind of get like some of the neon lights across the street from the original tower and some cool stuff like that. And then after the tour, I went to my buddy Chris Wilson's house in Portland. The basement needs serious renovations. It's very, very creepy looking. So me and my brother went up there, and it was cool. Like, I posted a little screenshot. I had said, I like the way we're filming now, kind of through this doorway, but it'd be cool if we could film through a little hole in the wall. And Chris, who owns the house, just picks up an axe, swings it at the wall, and it's like, whack! Like that? It's like, yeah, perfect.
That's dope. I'm really sincerely looking forward to that video. So yeah, Bears Repeating, the album. I'm just gonna plug it. You didn't know I was gonna do this, but I just gotta say, like, take92.bandcamp.com. You gotta get this shit. It's pay your own price, whatever you want to buy for it. Sammy Warm Hands. This is a killer record. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me. And is there anything else you want to say?
People had asked online. They wanted to know why I listed the credits as produced and all that other shit by Sammy Warm Hands. And I did that on this album and also on Break the Bank. And the reason being, I've done a lot of recording over the years, and usually it's on projects that I myself played on. So when you look at the list of shit, it's always like, guitar and vocals, Sam Wortenby, engineered and mixed by Sam Wortenby. I decided it would make more sense to just kind of lump it up, and whoever needed their credit would get their credit, but mine would just kind of be a produced and all that other shit by me. And I don't know. I think it gets the point across.
I hope the next record, whatever it is, that you get some individual thank yous in the liner notes. I mean, you got a few here, but like, man, I did not expect at all on the Death of the Salesman one to get a Thomas Hura printed in the liner notes for a thank you, especially because I didn't really do much. I just kind of helped film like the re-introducing video for re-introducing.
I try to shout out the people who have helped us. Sometimes in the CDs I'll print people who I haven't even talked to in like 2 years, but they did something to help us along the way. With this particular record, I felt like it was kind of a new beginning record for me. So I just wanted to put in a few individuals. I dedicated to my wife the whole album, because she, in the last couple of years, really, really helped me out a lot, just in many, many ways, in getting this weird transitional period for me of, not bringing in a lot of money and putting a lot of time on the road and a lot of time into records. And, so I really wanted to say that, and also her being the inspiration for multiple songs, including Crisis of Conscience and Around You. So that was something I needed to do.
Is this gonna be on the Singular XX YouTube channel?
Yeah, probably.
Damn, I'm moving into the illusionist world, dude. Someday I'll be in the ill. You won't even know it. You'll look over your shoulder, and instead of Evan, it'll be me with the beard and the shaved head.
Well, I hope that you aim higher for yourself, but I do appreciate the help.
Alright, Sammy Warm Hands. The record is Bears Repeating, like I said. It's fucking good. You should listen to the record 10 times.
And then go listen to Gradient.
Before the Red Sox lifted the Bambino curse, before Childish Donald ever spit a Gambino verse, before Obama gave a speech at the DNC and proceeded to inconvenience the GOP and its leaders who dreamed to see the day that he'd be deceased or at least impeached, before they split us and divided with Citizens United, back when pot smokers in Colorado had to hide it, before Miley Cyrus had ever tried it. I've been trying to be the best version of myself, sacrificing physical and mental health for the things that my soul longs for. I used to wait so long for an opportunity to knock on my front lawn door, but it was all wrong. Consequences fall on you if you do not crawl through. If you want it, don't get caught up in the politics, media, all of the things. Be a follower, but be one who follows a dream. I ain't trying to preach or be profound, I just found that some lessons aren't leather bound. You can sit around asking how they do it, or you can follow your passions, maybe make music. Two of us are doing that, me and Sammy Warm Hands. You can learn to take your life into your own hands. It ain't easy, believe me, it's just the hardest thing, but the world's waiting to receive what you're gonna bring.
I don't think I've time to wait around anymore. I don't think I've time to wait around anymore. I don't think I've time to wait around anymore. I don't think I've time to wait around anymore.
Yo, before Russell and Daryl and Jay Mazzell were famous rocking Adidas apparel and raising hell. Before Steve made Jobs and iPod sell. Before Hugh Hefner was ever chasing tail. Every acclaimed face had to blaze a trail. They just made the decision and weren't afraid to fail, to face defeat and still reach the bravest feat. From Farmers Boulevard on to Beacon Street, we cease to be defined by the lines. We feast to rise on the brightest side, blinded by the plight, strife is multiplied. So either climb the high road or hope to die. Take your time, find a place to hide. Rest easy, cause you're ready for everything that life leads. Be in it, higher education or exiled weekly. You can reach your dreams if you believe it deeply. I ain't trying to preach and be profound, I just found that some lessons aren't leather bound. You can sit around asking how they do it, or you can follow your passions, maybe make music. Two of us are doing that, me and Gradient. Only saying don't stop until you rock the stadiums. It ain't easy, believe me, it's the hardest thing, but the world's patiently waiting for what you're offering.